Good evening. We are back to the Spirit's book. We are studying the animals and humans. We started a couple of weeks ago. We are stopped on question 600. We still have like 10 questions to go. So just a reminder that the evolutionary path of the spirit until it becomes an individual spirit, we call it intelligent principle and spiritism. We go through the mineral phase, the vegetable phase, the animal phase, and then we become individualized spirit. In the latest stage of the animal kingdom, in the mammals, the spiritual principle is individual already. So a dog, a cat, a horse, the more evolved animals, they are animated by the individual, the spiritual principle, but not a spirit. Okay, we call it a spirit again. For us to understand according to spiritism, we call it a spirit when we reach the human phase and we acquire and start to develop free will and start making choices and having consequences for our choices. As we discussed last week, animals don't have karma, don't have consequences. They act out of instinct with some rudimentary intelligence, but not with creating karma for themselves because they don't have the capacity of reasoning. And above all, they don't have the understanding of God, which is the main concept that we acquire when we become humans. The understanding of the divinity, even as we stressed last week, even to deny the existence of God, we would have to acknowledge the possibility of the existence of God to deny it. Animals don't have that. So that comes when we become humans, okay? So that's where we were last week. And Philip, can you read 601 for us? You're on mute.
Do animals obey a law of progress like humans? Yes. And it is for this reason that animals are more advanced in the higher worlds where humans are more advanced. They possess more developed means of communication. However, they are always inferior to humans and act as their intelligent servants. There is nothing irrational in this statement. Imagine that our most intelligent animals, the dog, elephant, and horse, had a body structure fit for manual labor. What could they not accomplish under the leadership of humans?
Okay, so the concept here is that we are always in progress, right? So as we progress and we advance to more elevated worlds of regeneration, happy worlds in the evolutionary path of worlds, of course, the animals there will be more evolved also, but still will be animals, still will be rational, still will be the same thing, just more evolved, meaning, what does it mean? I don't think we have the ability to understand and to even guess, right? But the spirits tell us here that they possess more developed means of communication. And we talked about communication last week, right? The animals, some of them communicate by sound, some of them communicate by other means, right? Fish do not communicate by sound. So how do they communicate? Through vibrations. Humans, more evolved spirits communicate through thought. Don't need to communicate through words, right? So we can imagine that animals have other ways of communicating, and the means of communication, developed means of communication in more evolved worlds, we don't really know. We don't really have much more information than that. Kardec here mentions dog, elephant, and horse as our most intelligent animals. Just a reminder, as we discussed last week, according to André Luiz in the book Evolution in Two Worlds, we add to that the cat, the donkey, and the primates, right? The monkeys. Okay, so these are the 6 more elevated amongst the animal kingdom. That they already have some rudimentary intelligence, they can learn, and they can follow our directions.
So the system is fine. They do not have that. Like that. So there's no reincarnation.
Paco is asking if their existence is finite. They don't have reincarnation. No, they don't have reincarnation, because reincarnation, the concept of reincarnation, is to progress, to repair the mistakes, and to learn new things. They don't have to repair any mistakes. They are only in the process of learning. So they have many existences. Let's use reincarnation for humans. Incarnations and reincarnation, again, words. For humans, and for animals, existences, or other word that you want to use. So the intelligent principle that animates a dog can animate a horse in the next existence, can animate an elephant. Why? Because it's learning different aspects needed for the evolutionary path. Okay? But it's always learning. It's not creating any karma, so there will be no consequences.
So the principle is the one and developed. The principle itself is the one developed, not the animal itself.
Yeah, the intelligent principle, yes.
So the principle is the one that is developing itself, not
Yes, not the animal. The intelligent principle is the one evolving. The intelligent principle animating the animal is the one evolving, not the animal. Because you see that, a dog will be a dog. The dogs that you hear from the Roman times behave exactly the same the way dogs behave today, right? So there is no progress. But the spiritual principle that animates those animals continues progressing. And we mentioned last week, right, that the distance between us and the animals in terms of evolution is the same distance between us and God. To see how much we already evolved. Yes. Okay.
But you're saying that anything so expand the limit of the spiritual principle, no?
Sorry?
If you're saying that everything is expanded, so that means that there's somewhere going to be reached perfection, it's not going to be really perfection, it's going to be the most, the leading edge perfection.
Yeah, Paco is saying that according to the concept, right? This concept, when we reach perfection, it's not really perfection.
Perfection at that point.
Yeah, when we talk about perfection, again, we are limited by our lack of understanding and definition of the word. So if you consider that God is perfect and we won't be God, we will never be absolutely perfect. So if we will never be absolutely perfect, but we are going to reach perfection, Julio used to say we are perfected spirits. There is always a distance between us and God. And there is always a progress that will approach us to God, but never reach God. Otherwise, God will stop being God. That is as much as we can. We can imagine.
I can see that the leading edge.
Yeah, for me it makes sense also. But if it doesn't make sense for someone, I cannot go further than that in explaining. I don't know what to say.
It's like medicine. Medicine have a leading edge.
Sorry?
Medicine. You have a leading edge at them, for instance.
Yeah.
At that point, you don't have down here go, and eventually.
More advancement, more. Yeah, if you think of if you think that Jesus, when we talk about perfect spirits, we know that Jesus is the governor of this planet. And you have governors of more evolved planets. And you have governors of solar systems. And you have governors of galaxies. So these are spirits probably more advanced than Jesus, but Jesus is already a perfect spirit. Again, I think it's a little bit too much for us to Yeah, so someone has question. Yeah. Okay. No. Okay. All right. Any questions there? Philip, were you able to hear, understand?
I understand what you said, but Paco
You can
doesn't,
hear Paco. That's why I'm trying to repeat what he says. Yes.
I can hear him, but don't understand what he says.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to repeat what he says, because I know that it's difficult to hear. Yeah.
Myself,
He's saying it's even difficult for himself to formulate his thoughts. Okay. All right. 602.
Do animals progress like human beings through the action of their will or by circumstances? By circumstances, and that is the reason there is no atonement for them.
Again, a very important concept here. They evolve because of circumstance, because that's the natural law of progress, right? So there is no atonement. If a dog attacks a human and kills, the dog is not guilty. There is no consequence. It's just all instinct, right? So that's why when you have these problems with some dogs, their instinct goes beyond their respect for their owners, some type of dogs. And, there is a lot of discussion, but animals have only instincts. They will act first and foremost on instinct. They learn how to control themselves, but some learn better than others. Some can control better than others themselves. And the same thing with the others, the cats. We know that cats, if they are left alone with the owner died and they're hungry, they will eat the owner if nobody finds them, right? Which is, just their instinct. They need to survive. They will eat anything that is available, right? And it shocks us a little bit, but there is nothing out of the natural law there. It's just them following their natural instinct of survival, which is something that we humans learn at the time that we go through the animal kingdom, the instinct of survival, right? That we bring to with us. Okay.
(603)
Yeah.
Do animals have knowledge of God in higher worlds? No. Human beings are gods to them, as spirits were once gods to human beings.
So Kardec is still trying to make to understand how much animals can evolve. If they can reach the stage of have a knowledge of God, which is what we discussed that humans have, right? The knowledge that comes in our it's printed in our conscience, right? You'll find everywhere in civilizations. Even if you go to a tribe that is completely isolated from the rest of the world, never had any contact with others, and you still have some of those tribes in the Amazon, they believe in something. They believe in the supernatural. So they believe in a primitive God. Where did this come from? It comes from our own conscience. Animals don't have that. Not even in higher worlds, as the spirits are saying here. So we are their gods, let's say, right? As the spirits say here in a interesting way. Okay. Yes, as spirits were once gods to human beings. Paco is asking just for him. Well, when we were before we believed in one God, when we believed in many gods, we believed in a God of rain, the sun was a God, there was a God and there are spirits that are responsible for the events of nature, right? And there are spirits responsible for many things that happens around us. And before we used to believe that those spirits were gods. That's why we had many gods, right? So you had the god of war, you had the god of agriculture, and we have a spirit protecting the plantations, helping people that, the primitives that were doing agriculture. There were spirits trying to inspire them, to guide them. And you imagine the mediums of that time, because mediumship exists since forever. They would see these spirits and they would think that they were gods. That's what they're trying to say here. Yeah. So they will tell them, so a medium there in the small group of people taking care of agriculture. They say, I'm seeing a God here. I'm seeing this God telling us to do this or that with the crop. It's a God. Yeah. Okay.
Well, you tell a friend that someone believes that, that.
What do you tell a friend that still believes in that, a God of this, a God of that? You respect their beliefs. Because in the end, if you want to call spirits God, and you are comfortable with that, if they're not, misusing the knowledge to cause harm to others, if they feel comfortable and are helped by the belief, and they are, we have to be careful not to create confusion for people that are comfortable in their beliefs, as long as they are not causing any harm. The problem is when they are causing harm with others and they become, hostile to others because of their beliefs. If they're not, if they're comfortable and they're very happy with their beliefs, why would we make it complicated? Yes, if they're curious, we talk. If they're not and they're comfortable, we're not preachers. Yeah. Paco is saying that because everything that we learn here makes so much sense to him, it's difficult when he talks to people that have different beliefs. I agree with you, but I think for me it's more difficult to deal with people that know spiritism and deviates from spiritism, that adds things outside of spiritism to spiritism and starts making a mess of it. For me, that's more difficult to deal with. I don't have a problem with someone that goes to church every Sunday, believes, respects, and it's charitable. I don't have any problem with that. I respect profoundly. I admire them. Right? I have a problem with those that try to use their knowledge to cause problems to others. Okay?
604.
Yeah.
As the advanced animals from higher worlds are inferior to humans, it would seem as though God created intellectual beings destined for eternal inferiority. Such an arrangement does not appear to comply with the unity of design and progress evident in all God's creation. Everything in nature is connected by a link that your intellect cannot yet grasp, and the most apparently incongruent things have points of contact that humans will never understand in their current state. They may catch a brief glimpse of them by exercising their intelligence. However, it is only when that intelligence has reached its full development and frees itself from the prejudices of pride and ignorance that human beings will be able to clearly understand God's work. Until then, their narrow scope of thought causes them to look at everything from an inconsequential point of view. God cannot be self-contradictory, and everything in nature obeys the harmony of general laws that never deviate from the transcendent wisdom of our Creator. subsection A. So, is intelligence a common property and a point of contact between the souls of animals and humans? Yes, but animals only have the intelligence of material life. In human beings, intelligence yields moral life.
So that's an interesting question. Kardec keeps pushing the idea of animals having to evolve to a point that they will have an understanding of believing God, and the spirits are telling Kardec that everything is connected. The evolution is constant from the spiritual principle until it becomes a spirit. You have to differentiate between the animals and the intelligent principle that animates the animals. And that's the difficulty that Kardec was still trying to help us understand at that time. Because I'm sure Kardec understood clearly what they were saying there, the spirits. But he was trying to reinforce the point, because for us to understand the difference between the animals and the intelligent principle that animates the animal, it's a complex understanding. It's not our tendency, and we still struggle with this, is that we evolve from, humans evolve from primates, right? From monkeys, we are an evolution of monkeys, right? But we have somewhere the missing link, right? That's what our science says. Spiritism tells us our human bodies are evolution of the human bodies, the bodies that came from the evolution of the monkeys, right? The primates, but not our spirit. We, as spirits, were never a monkey or a horse or a dog. We went through the phase, animated and learned in that phase, and then became an individual spirit. It's subtle, but it's not the same thing. And it's important for us to understand this, because it's not a very simple notion to understand. When we talk about the evolution, there are two types of evolution. Evolution of us as eternal spirits that start from the atom, goes as intelligent principle through the kingdoms, become an individual spirit, and will reach one day the stage of a perfect spirit. And the evolution of our physical body here, which has nothing to do with the evolution of us as spirits. Our physical body is evolving also. Elmo can talk better about what has changed in the physical body. Our canines are changing. I read that there are babies born without canines nowadays, right? Which is already an evolution. We don't need that. They were to eat raw meat, right? Our appendix. Yeah.
It tends to disappear. Supposedly, the function of the appendix was to take it out, dirt, things that used to eat straight from the ground, You don't need that anymore. So that appendix getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and it tends to disappear. The only function that appendix has today is to put the surgeons back in. Nothing else.
You couldn't hear, Philip?
I could hear, but I could not understand.
Okay, can I talk a little bit closer on?
So the appendix has no longer a function in our digestive system. Hypothetically, in the past, it was an organ that had the function of removing some of the dirt that we used to eat together. At one point, you are eating like roots straight from the ground, wash without anything. So all the dirt was together there. But today, you don't eat dirt anymore. So in nature, you don't use it, you lose it. So the appendix is in the process of we losing it.
Never do that.
So,
Never do that.
so again, the evolution of the human body and the evolution of the spirit are two different things.
Yeah.
And science one day, when science decides to accept that we are more than physical body, they will may be able to get there. But that for the moment, they're still looking for the missing link. And, you know, it's fine. They will eventually find the missing link. I don't know what's going to be the missing link, but it's important for us to understand here. The other concept that's very important that I think that the spirits brought is on A, right? Animals only have the intelligence of material life. In human beings, intelligence yields moral life. And that's very important difference also, right? Because animals are aware of their physical lives. They're trying to procreate, to eat, and to, you know, to live amongst the others and to do what things that animals do, right? They have no concept of survival or of a moral life. There's no right or wrong for animals.
No, I like that.
There, yeah,
I like that, yes.
there is only instinct. So, but they have the intelligence of material life, right? We talked about last week. If you put food, two different kinds of food in two sides of the room for a dog, the dog will choose one of them. They will choose which one it likes more. It's instinct, but it's a rudimentary intelligence, right? Because only instinct, it would go directly to the one that is closest to it and eat. No, if the one that is a little bit further, it has a better attraction, you know, smell, they will go there. So it's a rudimentary intelligence that they are developing, but it's only for the material life. It's not for the spiritual life. There is no spiritual component in it. Okay?
One question.
Yes.
The discussion of the appendix, are we certain that no one on this planet eats raw vegetables that pulled from the ground?
When we speak here, we speak of the human race in general. The same way that you just say, can humans swim? And the answer is yes. Can everybody in this room swim?
No.
All right, so we speak in the general context. There might be somebody that is still in dirt.
Mhm.
But in general, the human race today does not need a functional appendix because it depends on of our diet.
And, you know, if you have tribes that still eating from dirt food, and they are procreating amongst them, they will continue having appendix.
I'm not sure of that.
I imagine, but again, I'm not sure.
Has to study.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to study the biology of the, you know, but anyway, genetics or something like that. All right.
605. If we consider all the points of contact that exist between humans and animals, does it not seem as though human beings have two souls, namely an animal soul and a spiritual soul, and that if they did not have the latter, they might still live as wild animals? In other words, animals are similar to humans minus the spiritual soul. Accordingly, the good and bad instincts of human beings are results of the predominance of one of these two souls. No, human beings do not have two souls. Their bodies have instincts resulting from the perception of their bodily organs, and they have a dual nature, an animal nature and a spiritual nature. Through their bodies, they participate in the animal nature and their instincts, while through their souls, they participate in the spiritual nature.
That's Let me break this because he has this. There are two very different important questions here, and we need to go over this one. Kardec, why is Kardec asking if we have two souls? Didn't Kardec know enough at that time to know that we don't? Yeah, but he was not asking for himself. He was asking for us. And at that time of Kardec, the concept of who we were, a spirit animating a physical body, was a concept still not well disseminated and understood. So what Kardec is trying to understand here is, if we are a spirit animating a physical body that has instincts, right? Because the physical body has automated functions and instinct. Wouldn't this characterize that we can be both an animal and a spirit at the same time? So meaning two souls. And the spirits are very clear. No, we're not two souls. We are a spiritual being animating a physical body. And because we are animating a physical body, the physical body has its needs, has its instincts, and has its animal nature, which we bring from the animal kingdom. When we went through the animal kingdom, the instinct of procreating, the instinct of eating and surviving, and other instincts that we have that belongs to the physical body and the spirit, right? The spirit is, because it's only one thing. Now, when the spirit goes back to the spiritual world, it no longer has these instincts. You may still carry them and miss them. And we hear a lot of spirits hungry, that follow spirits for sex, that follow for drinking. These are things that we bring from the physical body, but the spirit doesn't need it. It does need to overcome those human instincts that it brought from the physical body. But when we are incarnated, we need to sleep, we need to eat, we have the instinct of procreating, right, to preserve the human race. These are all things that we bring through our evolutionary path from the animal phase, but we are integrating and making it better as we evolve, right? So we produce better food we start using sex with a moral understanding and a moral utilization of it. We start to learn more about our instincts and how to control them, where they are useful, where they are not. Animals do not control their instincts. We learn how to control our instincts and use it for our progress, right? So that's what Kardec is, the spirits are telling here, the animal nature and the spiritual nature. So combining those and helping those, making us progress, is our objective when we are incarnated here. Okay?
Subsection A. So besides their own flaws that they must discard, do spirits also have to struggle against the influence of matter? Yes. The lower the spirit, the tighter the link between spirits and matter. Do you not see? No, humans do not have two souls. There is only one soul in a single being. The souls of animals and those of humans are distinct from one another, so that the soul of the one cannot animate the body created for the other. While human beings do not have animal souls that place them on the same level as animals, they do have animal bodies, which often drag them down. Their bodies are endowed with life and have instincts that are unintelligent and limited to their survival. When they incarnate in human bodies, spirits contribute the intellectual and moral principles that make them superior to animals. The two natures in humans, intellect and morality, constitute two distinct sources of passions, one springing from the instincts of their animal nature and the other due to the impurities of the spirit, which are in sympathy with the rudimentary nature of animal desires. As spirits become purified, they gradually free themselves from the influence of matter, while under that influence, they come close to the nature of animals. When delivered from that influence, they raise to their true destination.
Okay, so the spirits explain very well here the influence of matter. And again, going back to us as primitive beings, right? When we had our first incarnations as humans, what were we doing there? We were just trying to survive, trying to find food, and trying to procreate. We didn't do anything else, right? We go out of the cave to find food, bring food to the woman that we wanted to use to procreate, and that's it. If we had to kill our neighbor caveman for food, we would, without any thoughts, because this is coming from instinct, right? Now, as we evolve, we start learning to live in groups, respect others amongst the groups, try not to kill the others. We still start to fight against other groups, right? That's the evolutionary process. So in the beginning is a lot of matter and very little spirit, but there is already a spirit animating. So there is already a moral component there starting to develop and a free will starting to develop. And as we become, in multiple reincarnations, in hundreds and thousands of reincarnations, this continues to progress, the moral aspect and the intelligent aspect also. So the two natures, intellect and morality, that constitute, as Kardec says, two different sources of passion. And one comes from their instincts of their animal nature, the passion and the impurity of the spirit. So combining the animal instinct with the impurity of spirits is when we deviate from our path, allowing our instincts to predominate, eat too much, drink too much, become addicted to sexual desires. All of these are our animal passions predominating over our moral progress, right? Preventing us from evolving morally. When we start to dominate those passions is when we are making an effort to evolve. The moment we don't allow any passion to dominate us.
Well, the answer is to strengthen the spirit.
To strengthen it.
It's not,
yes.
It's not about the passion. The issue is to strengthen the spiritual component.
Is to educate the passions through the evolvement of our spirits.
Once you strengthen the moral aspect of the spiritual aspect, that's going to be taken care of.
Yes, yes. As we evolve morally, the passion will, yes.
The other one going to go down.
Yes, yeah. The more we move away from our animal nature, the more evolved we become. And you see the detachment. That's why we talk a lot about detachment from material things, right? Everything that belongs to matter and stays behind when we go back to the spiritual world should not be reasons for us to miss the physical world. If they are, we're still attached to things here. And we are. We at this stage of evolution, we are. We are not saints. So we're not going to go back to the spiritual world and not miss anything. We're going to miss things here. But the attachment to those things, how much the missing hurts us, is what really allows us to move forward or to become stuck in our passions here of the physical world. right? Okay.
(606). From where do animals derive the intelligent principle that determines the type of soul bestowed upon them? From the universal intelligent element. So does the intelligence of humans and animals come from the same principle? Of course, but in humans, it has received an extension that raises it above animals.
Okay, before we talk about this, I forgot something on the other one that's very important. One thing that the Spirit says here, while human being, the soul of animals and those of humans are distinct from one another, so that the soul of one cannot animate the body created for the other. That's very important. Next item that we're going to study here, metempsychosis, is when we are going to go deeper into that. But remember this phrase when we go back next week to metempsychosis. The souls of animals and those of humans are distinct from one another, so that the soul of one cannot animate the body created for another. Meaning, we cannot reincarnate as a dog or a cat or as a horse. We only move forward. We can not even reincarnate as a primitive human being. We can incarnate amongst the primitive, but with already an evolved spirit, right? The level that we are. We can incarnate in a less evolved world, but we never regress as a spirit. So in not regressing, we cannot incarnate as an animal, reincarnate as an animal, okay? But we are going to come back next week to this when we study metempsychosis. So this question, everything originates, everything that is not God, and it's not the spirit or the spiritual principle, originates from the universal fluid, the cosmic fluid. The universal intelligent element, it's the intelligent principle that originates the intelligent principle that is going to go through the animal phase, the vegetable, the kingdom, and reach the different kingdoms and reach the spirit, right? So again, God, spiritual principle / spirit, universe, everything that else that is matter, universal fluid. So the animals, a dog, the physical body comes from the universal fluid or the cosmic fluid. The intelligent principle comes from the universal intelligent element. Okay? The creation, the two different creations by God.
And when you find then the intelligent principle.
Yeah, the intelligent element.
And spiritual independent.
Yes, it comes from the. Yes. Okay. Everything that is not matter, not deriving from matter, physical, spiritual, everything that is not matter, it's either God or it comes from the side of the intelligent principle, intelligent element, universal intelligent element, as they call it here. Okay. So the intelligence of humans and animals come from the same principle, the universal intelligent element, but in human, it has already been added to something, right? An extension that raises above animals. After you go through the animal phase and you become an individual spirit, you are above the animals already, okay? Okay, Danny.
Working today. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So my little daughter was asking me about exactly these questions here this past week. Like she asked me, were we incarnated? Like she asked, can we reincarnate as a horse? Right? And I told her, no, we cannot. But then she asked me, have we been a horse before, or a dog, or a bug? So it was very hard for me to explain because it's hard for me to understand as well.
Yeah,
So simply saying, we,
were not.
okay, but we have been
Through the
evolving from a different principle, like a different element. Like this universal intelligent element is part of the humans. No, it's also part of the animals
yes.
evolution.
The origin of our evolution, we start from the very beginning, an atom, let's say, and we go as an intelligent principle, again, words used in Spiritism, animating and learning from the mineral, where we learn aggregation, the vegetable, where we learn the automated systems, the animal, when we learn instincts, and then we become individual spirits. So we were going through the phases. It's difficult to explain this to a child. I don't know how you can explain, right? So if when she asked, were we a horse, a dog, or a cockroach, we were not. And the spirits are very clear on that. We were not. But we went through that learning experiences of that phase of the evolution. I don't know how to put that to a 7-year-old.
But we went through the phases as spirits already.
No, well, according to Spiritism, it's called intelligent principle. Spirits only when we become individual spirits and with humans, let's say, on Earth. So, but again, it's words. It's just to make it easier for us to understand the division. We become individual spirit in our first incarnation as a human or as an individual spirit. Before that, we are intelligent principle.
So okay, so it's a different kind of matter.
What?
Or not even, it's not even a matter yet. Like we are not even because.
What do you mean matter? What is a different matter? I don't understand the question.
Because we as spirits, we have the perispirit, so which is matter.
Oh, you're talking about there is something there, yes. That the spirits say that we don't have words to explain.
So we are not a perispirit, we are not a spirit yet.
Does a dog has a perispirit? A dog that has a spiritual principle that has a form of matter animating it, but if we call perispirit, it becomes very confusing with the humans. So there is something there, but we don't have words and we cannot really explain. I don't know, Elmo, you have that? No.
And it would be, I would imagine, to be of a different composition of the elementary matter, which the universe cosmic fluid, the cosmic fluid, right? I would say they would not be the same. Whatever is that the animals that survive the death of the physical body would not be the equivalent of the perispirit.
But that is as much as we can say at the moment.
Because we need to understand that the spirit, having the intelligence and the free will, modifies the perispirit gradually as the spirit advances. And that's why this physical body is changing as well, because then perispirits, as they get better and better, they will produce better and better physical bodies as well. Since animals do not have that ability yet as an intelligent principle, it will always be repeated. Dog is gonna always be a dog. It's gonna be always the same.
Okay.
Good luck explaining that.
It's good that you cannot see my face now. Confused.
Try to keep it simple. That's the best. That's the best advice I can give you, because it's really, if we have trouble understanding, imagine a 7-year-old. Try to keep.
I think just basically saying we were not animals before. I think it's just starting from there.
Yeah, we learn from that phase, but not being an animal. Tough.
You know what came up to my mind? What came up to my mind is that for me to experience rain, I don't have to get wet.
Paco is saying, for me to experience rain, I don't have to get what? Wet?
Wet.
Yeah. You have to know the rain exists, but you can rationalize.
I can experience the rain without getting wet.
Yes,
Yes.
you can.
Yeah, that's how I look at it in terms of going through the phases that you learn from them.
Yeah. Now I get the analogy. It's interesting.
Get
Yeah.
the analogy?
Yeah. Now I get it. Yeah.
You got actually live it, you're experiencing it, but you're
Yeah.
not really getting wet.
It's a good analogy. I like it. Paco. Thank you.
I just came out because you see,
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out something to help with 30-year-old.
Yeah.
How about photosynthesis? How about photosynthesis?
About photosynthesis. Well, yeah. Well, we learn about rain in the vegetable kingdom, and yeah. So, all right. So one more.
.607. You have stated that when the soul of a human being is born, it is in a state equivalent to that of human infancy. That is, intelligence is just beginning to unfurl, and that it is trying to live. Where does the soul accomplish this initial phase? In a series of existences that come before the period that you call humanity. Subsection A. Therefore, it seems that the soul is the intelligent principle of inferior beings of creation. Is it so? Have we not said that everything in nature is connected and tends towards unity? As we have explained, it is in those beings which you are very far from knowing that the intelligent principle is created, gradually individualized, and tries to live. Through its subjugation to a primary process like germination, the principle undergoes a transformation and becomes a spirit. The human phase then begins for each spirit with the consciousness of its future, the power of distinguishing between good and evil, and accountability for its actions. After infancy, then comes childhood, youth, adolescence, and finally mature adulthood. Do the greatest geniuses feel embarrassed because they were once formless fetuses in the wombs of their mothers? If anything should humiliate them, it is their inferiority before God and their inability to probe the depths of the divine plans and the wisdom of the laws that regulate harmony in the universe. Recognize God's greatness in this awe-inspiring harmony that establishes a sense of solidarity between everything in nature. Even the thought that God would have made anything without a purpose and created intelligent beings without a future is an insult to the Creator's goodness, which covers all creation. Does the period of humanity begin on earth? The earth is not the first point of the earliest phase of human incarnation. The human period generally starts in worlds that are even lower than yours. This rule is not unconditional, and a spirit, upon entering the human phase, may be ready to live on earth. Such a case, while possible, is uncommon and would be an exception to the general rule.
In English, please.
Yes. Thank you.
So it's a little bit of everything that we study here. So Kardec is asking that when the soul of a human being is born, it is in a state equivalent of that human infancy. The intelligence is beginning to unfold and then everything else. So the spirits tell us that the evolution of the spiritual principle goes through all the phases that we've been before. And as they explain here, it is in those beings which are very far from knowing, the intelligent principle is created, gradually individualized, and tries to live. Well, we talked about it in the animal kingdom, right? A fish is not an individual spiritual principle. A dog is an individual spiritual principle. So spiritual principle, when it's learning in the animating fish, it will be a group of fish. That's why we see them all doing the same thing and follow the school way. Yes. When a whale is an individual, it's a mammal, so it's already an individual spiritual principle. So as we go through those evolutions is where we slowly acquire or are gradually individualized, and the principle undergoes a transformation and becomes a spirit. That's what we've been saying here. Then begins the human phase, with consciousness of the future, the power of distinguishing between good and evil, and accountability for its actions. That starts in the very primitive phase, right? We have very rudimentary notions of good and evil that animals don't have. What are these rudimentary notions? Again, it's the basic, the very basic first notions of, doing something that doesn't feel good. You can call evil, and does something that, the rudimentary understanding, which for us now is difficult to conceptualize, right? And then, we continue evolving. Then the spirits talk about God, the God creation, that everything happens in the evolutionary path, right? And then on B, the spirits say, which is very interesting here, that the period of humanity does not begin on Earth. And that's what's important, going back to what we discussed, that our physical body evolves from the primates, the same origin, and then separate. But we, spirits, we were not spiritual principle animating those animals here on Earth. We were somewhere else. Our first incarnations as individual spirits were not on Earth, were somewhere else, a more primitive world in a more primitive time. And then Kardec talks about that it's possible for spirit to have its first incarnation on Earth, and this was asked actually to Emmanuel. And he said that it's possible. It would be in one of these primitive tribes that we have on Earth, that you may find, again, the exception to the rule, a spirit that is in its first incarnation here. The first incarnation is on Earth, but that will be the exception. And there will be less and less, because as the world evolves, there will be less and less possible. I don't know if it still exists. At the time of Kardec, we had more tribes in the world. It's the primitive people in the world than we have today, right? So less and less, but possible, again. Not common, but possible exception, okay? Okay, time is up. We haven't been able to finish it yet. So Daniela is telling us the book club comes back on August 24th, still not next Wednesday, it's not this Wednesday, next Wednesday. We'll start with a section Letter to the Reader from the book 50 years ago. Chapter 1 will be discussed on the following week, okay? So every Wednesday, 7 p.m. through Zoom only, our book club is going to start 50 years ago on the 24th. The lecture this Saturday by the United States Spiritist Federation is by Julio Carvalho, our friend from Newark, The Usefulness of Wealth. The lecture will analyze our relationship with money and the influence it has on the material and spiritual aspects of our existence. It should be very interesting. And this Sunday is the second Sunday of the month, so we'll be studying the Gospel according to Spiritism. Okay?